Good morning. This is our first scheduled live, which is super exciting. So TikTok's just notifying everyone that we're live now. And we wanted to start today by talking about hilarious stories that Dom and I have done because we are both neurodiverse.
And just, the reason we're is preparing literally a few minutes ago, I was intensely, looking at what I was wanting to say about masking actually.
She lit a fire.
So intently, absorbed into what I was doing, completely failed to notice that the paper was sitting on the flame of the candle that was there as well. It took a while before it actually sank through that there was a burning smell and then that there was flame on the paper that I was reading. So,
she lit a fire. She lit a fire. And I didn't know. I was downstairs. Chris, yay, hi. We're just sharing some of our fun neurodiverse stories.
We had a fire here this morning, which is directly related to neurodiversity and, hyperfocus and...
1 minute early we were.
Yes. Fire's now out.
Yeah, Dr.
Yes.
Dominique lit a fire, and I would like to also say this is not the first fire.
Well, that's what we realised as Hannah and I were comparing stories, and there was actually a much bigger fire. Not a few years ago now, when Hannah came up to me and
It was my mother's 60th birthday, and I thought, what a beautiful idea if I go around to the 40 guests and hand them sparklers each. So I went up to Dr. Dom and I went up to Dr. Danielle, 3 grown women, 3 professional women. I held 40 sparklers in my hand and said, should I light all of these and go and hand them out?
And we went, yeah,
Both
sure.
of them said, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
They helped me light them.
Very efficient.
They grabbed the flame, lit them. So while this exploded in my hand.
We made a sparkler bomb.
And I just stood there in a room of like 50 people of my mum's best friends holding a sparkler bomb in my hand like, what do I do? And because I had delayed autistic reaction, I didn't do anything until a man ran up to me and said, drop the fire on the carpet.
It was a wool carpet. It had some wonderful memories for many years afterwards where we could see all those little burn spots from where the sparklers all landed.
Yeah. So I've lit multiple fires. Chris, thank you so much for the likes. You are actually the MVP of this channel. You really are. Hey, Aussie gal, thank you so much for being here. We're just sharing our little autistic stories, but as always, what we are here to do is to answer your questions. Doesn't have to be about neurodiversity, can be anything that a psychiatrist can answer, can be whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking. Aussie gal, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it because it helps us so much. Hi, Bill. Thanks for joining. Hi, Trex. Thanks for joining. If you're here, we want your questions. We want to answer them. Yay! Yes, us talking about, hey, Cal, us talking about lighting fires, multiple fires, by the way. I've lit 4 at my last count. Oh, yeah, this is a safe zone for everyone. You can ask anything. 0 judgment, 0 shame, 0 stigma. No personal advice given, so it's only general, but you can ask anything. And so not only have we lit fires, we've both been electrocuted.
Yes. So, changing the light bulb and deciding to check out whether it was a bayonet or a screw-in bulb with my finger with the light still on.
She electrocuted herself with a light bulb. I electrocuted myself with a washing machine. I don't know how. And then I didn't know what to do, so I just sat on the couch.
And this just kind of ties into, whenever we're looking or thinking about neurodivergence, we've so many different areas where our brain can really, get into a special interest, and my brain's just firing and taking it all in and just coming up with it all. Other areas of life really, really can, I have to put a lot of extra work in now.
We're missing it.
To just be aware of where my brain might miss those very, very practical safety issues.
Because that was just today, fire number 3. The proof of the fire. So that's just the normal day in the life of a neurodivergent. Who knows what's going to happen? It's a miracle that we're both still alive, the things we've done. It's a miracle. I mean, do we want to talk about our cars? I've never hit a moving object but many stationary ones.
And when we actually sat to compare, what's remarkable is that both of our cars have got dints in exactly the same places on both sides of the car, because that's where those supermarket poles are. That's where those poles are.
Chris, have I got you as a mod already? I think I listed you as a mod, so hopefully you are. This morning we filmed talking about camouflaging. So camouflaging, aka masking, we're replacing the word because, oh, perfect. Thank you, Chris. We're replacing the word because masking feels icky. It makes me feel icky. I don't like it. Camouflaging feels natural. It makes me think of a beautiful chameleon that can flex.
And camouflaging brings in that flexibility. It's something you can choose how much you do of it, where you do it. And masking, it's that idea of something you put on and take off. No flexibility in it.
And I just think I have these concepts that it's literary concepts of like you wear the mask so long it becomes your face, which actually kind of can apply to long-term masking if you're neurodivergent, because if you've been masking and then you're really late diagnosed, when you're trying to uncamouflage, it's really hard to work out, who am I really?
Yes.
What am I really interested in? What do I really want to know about? What am I really committed to? So, yeah.
And that, we were talking a bit about we're both late diagnosed, and just the, very, very different experience seeing the children coming through now, getting early diagnosis and then growing up in a
that is so
if they're
pretty.
growing up in a neuroaffirming environment, hopefully in an increasingly neuroaffirming society. We've still got a long way to go, but we're working on it, and we're working on it right here.
That's exactly what we're doing. We also just want to have a safe space for people to talk about mental health, because even though there's so much push, it feels like there's so much push for it to be a safe place, so many people do not want to say, I'm struggling. I'm finding this hard. I don't want to do this. I personally find it very hard to say no to things, social things. So I say yes to every social thing and then I cancel. And it makes me a bad friend. It makes me a really flaky friend. But I really struggle with being able to just say to someone, I really don't have capacity to do that right now.
And if we want to...
Oh, and hey, dyslexia, don't ever worry about it. Yes, Kel, yes, we can talk about ADHD and alcoholism. So first, we'll quickly do insight on what neurodivergent means, and then Kel will do ADHD and alcoholism, generally neurodivergence and substance abuse. So
neurodivergence.
What is neurodivergence?
Neurodivergence it's actually a paradigm. It's an idea. It's a way of looking at the human experience, and particularly, from that neurological or neurobiological perspective.
I like to immediately say neuro, brain, divergent, different. Yes, sweetheart, I'm listening. My son is here. Mummy's just working right now. I'll get it for you. Yes. I like to immediately say neuro, brain, divergent, difference. Dr. Dom will keep going with that, and then we'll get into ADHD, neurodivergence, and addiction. I'll get it for you, sweetheart.
And big thing with neurodivergence. So it's looking at that there is a designated normal way of the brain functioning in all different settings, whether it's cognitive, emotional, social, and that what we've realised is that there is a group of people who their experience and the way that their brain works is different enough that it deviates from the specified norm, not the right way of being, enough that it actually separates off into a separate group. I'll actually just very quickly, I'm pretty kind of old.
Dom's actually good with drawing a little explanation. If you're a visual learner,
if we're looking, it's talking from the point of view of the bell curve.
Neurotypical?
So we've got the neurotypical, and then we've got a group that deviates enough from the curve that it's worth, and it just makes such a difference for people to be aware and kind of go, hey, that actually explains I am neurodivergent.
Yeah, your brain is wired differently. And
there are other people who are, brains are also wired differently.
Yeah, and you're going to experience the word neurospicy. I love neurospicy. It's sassy. I say tism all the time. Whenever I do something, I'm like, oh, that was a tism, guys. I'm sorry. So that's neurodivergent. It means that your brain is wired slightly differently, though it can be difficult, from the majority of the population. Now, I'm so deeply interested in talking about being neurodivergent and things like alcoholism, addiction, substance abuse. Dr. Dom, do you want to get into this? Because I've used alcohol, I've abused alcohol, so relate to it deeply. Please don't feel any shame for it, and thank you so much for asking this question.
And yes, so addictions and neurodiversity.
Oh, congratulations so much.
Oh, yay.
I'll look for it. I have a son and he's on school holidays.
They are, very correlated. When we
You,
start looking
Aussie
at
gal,
people
you might be. You might be. At 3 months sober, congratulations. That's incredible. Dom's going to start with neurodivergent and addiction.
Yes, there is a very clear connection between the two. And one of the things we're actually kind of having a look now is if you start to look at people who are, struggling with substance abuse, we've realised that one of the first things we need to do is look at, well, what's going on from a neurotype perspective, because any of the interventions or strategies need to be coming either from, need to be framed for the neurodiverse brain, if that's the case. What are the reasons why addictions are so much greater? And when I'm talking about addictions, we want to include, the people are very much alcohol, other recreational substances, but we also want to bring in the behaviours as well.
Hey, Purple.
Particularly for neurodivergence, gaming. It's a big one and it's a complex one.
Is it?
Because it can be a special interest. It can be an addiction. It can be all sorts of things that are helpful and all sorts of things that turn into a less helpful thing. So the issue with addictions is that they are a coping mechanism and they're about alleviating anxiety. They do often, one of the things they give to neurodivergent people is they can include you into a subculture.
Yes.
And a subculture where perhaps some of your other traits are less obvious, when
if you're blackout drunk and everyone else is blackout drunk and you're all talking nonsense, then you're bonded by the shared experience of all being blackout. And if you felt othered by being neurodivergent, it's an easy path to fall into. I'm just saying that because that's my experience.
Yes.
I don't drink now, but I have no shame in saying that I've experienced that. That's my experience and I'm not ashamed of it.
And, and then, there's the whole kind of, where is it a coping mechanism to deal with symptoms?
Purple, I'm so sorry to hear that. But yeah, we'll let Dom keep going because it's really important to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
And, but also where have been people using it to self-treat?
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of these, a lot of the things, they're going to be effective in the short term. Unfortunately, they're not as effective in the long term, and they tend to actually overall become an avoidance of finding coping mechanisms that are going to work better and more effectively and have less harm associated with them. But, yeah, they're going to work on overthinking. They're going to work on intense emotional distress. And so, one of the great things that happens when somebody is diagnosed or becomes aware that they are neurodivergent is, first of all, that helps them make sense of why have they been using these substances, what have those things been doing. Oh, sugar's one of the biggest. That one really gets me because there's so much stigma about
sugar's a physiological addiction
or other kind of addictions that are seen as a willpower issue.
Thank you,
and then there's sugar, which is a completely society accepted.
Yeah.
Yes. And so when you actually kind of know what's going on and then you're working to kind of accept your brain, then you can actually start bringing in different coping mechanisms that are going to be much more effective in the long run and don't come with the harm.
So if you're not aware that you are neurodivergent and you are abusing substances or dealing with addiction, if you do learn and get diagnosed that you're neurodivergent, you will get a whole new toolbox of ways to deal with this, because a lot of the ways that neurotypicals are taught to deal with addiction will not apply to a neurodiverse brain. The whole give it to God thing, I don't see that being particularly effective for a neurodivergent brain.
Anything that we're working with in any of the therapies for any of the mental health issues, nowadays that's the first thing I'm doing. What's a person's neurotype, because then we can actually work together with what's going to work for each person's, specific brain.
Cindy's asked, does anxiety or depression cause bad vertigo or dizziness?
vertigo where you're fully getting the spinning, that's going to be vestibular.
If it's all screaming you, yeah.
Chicken nuggets, yes. If we come back, where anxiety is going to affect you physiologically is that where you can get dizziness is if you're hyperventilating.
Yeah, that's what happens to me. I get dizzy.
And particularly in a panic attack.
Because I will hyperventilate and then I'll like stumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, so have we covered the addictions? Has that been?
Do people want us to get more into addiction or, well, what would you say to neurodivergent people who are dealing with substance abuse?
Well, take away the stigma, take away the shame.
Take away the shame.
Getting in, you'll hear me say it over and over. Get curious and interested. Actually have a look. I've got a behaviour here. I'm using this as a coping mechanism. I wonder what I'm using it for, and then get clear. Is it for a particular symptom? If so, what are the ways that we can manage that in a different way? Is it related to feeling very? One of the things that as a late having a late diagnosis is, I know my experience was very much feeling very isolated and alone with a lot of things.
You absolutely can, Ozzy. We love to talk about that.
And, by connecting and finding that there's a whole heap of other people out there whose brains work in a very similar way. And it's not that I'm the only one who's weird or different, but that I'm actually part of a whole group. That makes a big difference. But then, you can start to kind of have a look at, okay, why does my brain overthink? The obsessional rumination, I've just been having massive bursts of that over the last week. And I used to have a very bad relationship with it. I was seeing it as some kind of pathology or something that I shouldn't be doing. And now I've just realised that's the way my brain has to process really big emotional, complex relational things. It is going to play it over and over.
I do that. I ruminate. I'll have to go over and over and over until my brain has said, you've obsessed enough.
Yeah.
So Aussie Gal, thank you so much for supporting our live, by the way. Can I ask about childhood trauma and just one question? Yes, you absolutely can. Would you like to ask about it? And then Kel, I can see that you've left that comment. Thank you so much for leaving it. Obviously, traumatic things that happen to you in your childhood can have a vast array of impacts in your adult life.
Yes.
So,
and where we're talking about the results of trauma, in adulthood, one of the big shifts over the past 20, we have got so much more effective treatments in this area. Our understanding of the science of it, our understanding of why trauma affects people the way it does, massive leaps. And, probably one of the key things we were talking about this yesterday, if you are managing trauma, is to, the first thing is to have a look. The trauma is what was wrong.
Yes.
What happened is what was wrong.
You are not what is wrong.
And we actually understand, there's a very clear way that people's systems, their brains and their physiology will respond to trauma. And then we can actually kind of work in, okay, how do we manage those experiences? One of the devastating truths about childhood trauma is that there are ongoing consequences into adulthood in so many different areas, and this is absolutely not fair, and I hate it every time I have to say it, but the reality is what was done to you was not your fault and not your responsibility, but unfortunately healing can only be done by the person who's experiencing it. So
it's not fair,
PTSD.
But healing will be your responsibility. It's unfair, but there's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. And it's deeply unfair that it's your responsibility to heal. But yes, Aussie Gal, want to get into that because it's very interesting. Not remembering my childhood. I have two memories and want to remember, but I can't. You're so welcome, Kel.
Okay, so this is a very complex area, and I'm just trying to think about how to approach it from a general perspective. It's a common experience, and there's no one cause for it. There's actually a lot of different reasons why people don't have childhood memories. One of them we can talk about is dissociation. That's a word that I think, is becoming more commonly used out there now. Dissociation's a normal physiologic experience, you know, that our brain does. We all dissociate when we're driving. But if there's been experiences in childhood that were overwhelming, then we and they can be overwhelming for all sorts of different reasons. One of the ways that the brain can learn to cope with that is by dissociating aspects. So instead of having both the memory and the cognitive experience and the emotional experience, they can get disconnected. And sometimes, particularly once somebody's learned to dissociate, they can start dissociating from a big part of their experiences and memories.
And so I'm guessing that means that if you've dissociated those memories from childhood, then
if people don't have memories related to dissociation, then it means that that those memories are in the brain, but they're not consciously accessible at the time. And one of the things when we're working with dissociation, and look, gosh, this is an area that I'm going to be very, very cautious talking about. Psychiatry and mental health in general has gotten this very wrong in the past and done really, really big harm to people in kind of pushing, retrieving memories or anything. I'll just, in general, anything that we're working with the mind, you're wanting to come from a basis of cooperation, kindness, and collaboration with your different parts of your mind. And any time that you're forcing or pushing for something to happen, just taking a breath, stopping, bringing yourself back down, and is it being kind? Is it forcing something? Because the wonderful thing about healing, and I'm constantly in awe of people's capacities to heal, particularly from childhood trauma, it comes in the order that works for the individual. Their mind, their brain knows what processes they need to go through, what areas they need to work on, what things they need to strengthen up in the present, in their sense of self or in their emotional skills, before they go more into. So I'll just kind of clarify. When we're working with trauma, there's a lot of work that goes in the beginning with working with education and understanding and strengthening things up in the present before we go into trauma processing, which is a different process, and that's where you're starting to look into the past.
Is it possible for me to remember, I think I'm healed, I know I'm a strong woman? I know that you are a strong woman, absolutely, but I don't think that we can answer that question because that's a really personal medical question, so we do need to keep it just generally. But thank you for asking, and when you are looking for psychologists or psychiatrists to work with, pick people that you trust, that are kind, that are ethical, and that you feel very understood. You're so welcome.
And look, I'll just actually kind of introduce one of the things in the work I do is I'm just so aware of the access issues getting in to see individual psychiatrists and psychologists. And often a lot of us, we're trying to, see so many people, it limits our time that we can work with individuals. And so over time I've really developed a lot of resources that I can kind of share so that people can go away and work on things themselves. And just to be clear, any resources I share here, whether it's websites or books, it's things that I've had a really good look at that I've often shared in the past and that I feel very comfortable sharing. It's not a commercial or anything like that. It's just about sharing that information that could be really helpful to people. When we're dealing with childhood trauma, there's an organisation called the Blue Knot Foundation. It's based here in Australia, and it's got a beautiful story to its creation in that, there was a time where trauma was really poorly understood, very, very stigmatised. Yes, The Body Keeps Score is the absolute textbook in this area. That's the Bessel van der Kolk book, and really core. It just covers all of the basics. He was an absolute hero in that he was standing up to the profession, screaming out about, the effect trauma was having on mental health and the amount that the body was involved, not just the mind. And he had to really fight against a lot of resistance to get what's now a mainstream.
Can I just say Dr. Dom is probably the best read person I know. So if you ever want a book recommendation, this is the woman to go to. And I read a lot. And she reads so much more than I do.
And look, I'll just be very clear because, reading's not easy in our current time. Getting through whole books, I often don't get through the whole book, but I get through it enough to get the information, the essence when I'm, looking with books. Getting back, Blue Knot Foundation, check out their website. The organisation was developed by women who were, experiencing the effects of childhood trauma, who were very stigmatised and really quite treated very badly by the mental health system at that time. And their way of dealing with that was to go and create an organisation that has made changes in the way people are treated, and it's about trying to get information out there. They run survivor workshops, and they've got a lot of information, about the general kind of understanding of complex trauma on their website.
That's an interesting question, Ozzy. Being in such intense work roles, how do you ladies not take that stress home after your workday? Dom, I think you could answer that better because your work is intensely, it's very emotional.
Yes. And it's been a practice. It's something that you want to learn to do. I will, one of the things when we're talking about stress as well is that there's two aspects to it. So, and I'm talking, there's a great book called Burnout, which was written for women. And I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head, Emily Nagoski, I think it is. We can come
Nagoski, that famous
Nagoski,
woman?
No. So the book's called Burnout, but I can talk a bit to, the fundamental thing that they're talking about there is, there's the stressor, which is what's going on at work, and then there's the stress, which is what you then have in your body. So often as we're going home, we've left the stressor at work, or we're kind of driving home and deliberately kind of putting it in the background, but we still get home with all that stress in our body, and it's needing to complete the stress cycle. And there's lots of different ways you can. Once you're aware that you need to complete it, then whether it's physical, whether it's something else that helps distract you and allows your body to actually come back to it's okay, that stress is over
Ozzy,
now.
thank you so much for liking the live. If other people who are in here could please like the live so that TikTok pushes it out more, or share it, we would be eternally grateful. If any of the men in here have questions and want to ask, please feel comfortable. It always makes me incredibly sad that men don't feel they can be emotionally vulnerable or share things or ask questions. It definitely hurts my heart because men need to be heard and listened to.
Yes, but it's seems to be a lot easier for women to talk about these things. And one of the things, once you get in and you're actually kind of you're able to kind of look at, okay, what's going on with my mental health? It's not something to be ashamed of, or it's and then we have so many effective ways of managing things nowadays, whether it's pharmacological medication, whether it's psychological therapies, and skills. Nowadays a lot of the work we're doing is actually helping people develop skills that they might have not been able to develop in childhood.
Yeah.
Emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, these are things that we have to learn, as we have to teach kids these stuff.
I'm still learning them.
Human babies do not come out knowing these things. They don't know how to manage their emotions. They don't come out with inherent social skills. We have to teach them these things. And, unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons in our society why people might not have learnt those things in a way that's most helpful for their mental health.
Ozzy, if you're comfortable, do you want to talk about ways that your husband struggles with ADHD? Because, hi Drew, hi. Because Dr. Dom might have some insights about certain particular struggles with ADHD, because it is so varied, all the ways that ADHD can manifest and become problematic. I mean, Dom and I have been talking repeatedly about the fires we've lit, the multiple fires we've lit, the way we've injured ourselves. But if you do want to share, we can always talk about that.
And if got a question
That's
yesterday
great,
about
Ozzy.
skill sets. And one of the things, if you've got a late diagnosis, whether it's of ADHD or of autism, or there's complex trauma that you're doing the work to heal on, one of the aspects is the actual kind of disorder or neurotype. But there's a point at which you're having to stop and go, actually, there's a whole heap of skills that I never developed in childhood, and these are often associated with...
Purple, I'd love to get into that one. I'll let Dom finish this point, then we'll get to yours.
And you know, they're not easy to learn in adulthood. It is different to being able to learn them in childhood, but it is very possible. There are great resources out there now, and it's incredibly rewarding.
It is so rewarding.
And, you know, sometimes the first thing is actually learning how to learn if it's,
Ozzy,
if you've
I get
experienced attentional difficulties. We've just had a question about starting and finishing tasks.
So we'll do ADHD starting and finishing tasks, and then we're going to go to Purple's question about family cycles and deconstructing family cycles, because that's something that everyone sort of experiences in one way or another. But we'll do
that. Starting and finishing tasks, transitions. You know, there's a few different reasons why people can struggle with starting and finishing tasks. A lot of them are actually very much related to the brain rather than psychology or willpower. There are some reasons why people will procrastinate that are related to fears, but a lot of it's actually practical. Where do you start?
I struggle
what's the
so much.
particular style of organisation that works best for you? I'm personally using circular tasking now, which is where I used to have a lot of difficulty starting and finishing, and now I actually I keep doing that. It's obviously the way that my brain does that, but I just rotate through. So I'll start one task, I'll find myself a few seconds later doing another task, then I'll move on to another one, but then I come back to the first one and I just kind of go through them.
I circular task as well.
And once you actually give yourself permission to do that, gosh, you can get a lot done really effectively.
But I find it very difficult to start and finish tasks. Very difficult. I will procrastinate no end. So what I do is break the task up into micro little jobs. So for example, and this is another one that needs to be destigmatized, a lot of autistic people struggle showering. Me, I find it hard. I don't know why. And teeth brushing. I don't know why, but I do. So what I have done with showering is broken it up into like the micro task. Step 1, get undressed. Step 2, organize towel. Step 3, turn on shower. And that helps me a lot.
That have recognised
the apps
that you know, neurodivergent
the teeth, Aussie gal, brushing teeth is really hard.
Yes. And, you know, this is where I love knowing that I'm neurodivergent. I love knowing about
it. It removes the shame.
It came with a whole heap of mixed feelings, you know, to start off with. But now I can remove the shame. My brain just doesn't work that way with these things.
That's so beautiful, Ozzy.
One of the things I talk a lot about, accept and modify.
Yes.
Once you accept that is just the way your brain is, if it's your brain, that's hard wiring. That's not just going to suddenly switch or become easy for you. But amazing thing is once you accept it, then the brain's great at coming up with modifications of, okay, I can't do it the way that everybody else does, but I can find a way that works for my brain.
I will absolutely do circular tasking. So I've done one little bit of a thing, then next. Or if it's something like showering, it has to be broken into micro tasks that I will then microtask and do.
And to
do charts, it only helps for me if I set alarms and it still has to be broken into a micro.
They need to be approached again. Keep with this one, the kindness and compassion.
Hi, Jason.
So you're wanting to use them as a tool. Okay, I'm going to set up this to-do task because if I don't have any structure at all, I'll just end up doing absolutely nothing. But I also want to be aware that to-do task who knows how much of it I'm going to get through during the day, because once you get going and things take a different amount of time, other things come up, you're wanting to bring in that flexibility. So make the structure of the to-do chart if that works for you, but then also allow yourself that flexibility. No guilt if you don't get it done.
Exactly. Remove the guilt, remove the shame. Don't blame yourself. You're doing your absolute best. Purple, I really want to get to your talk about family cycles, because this I could go all day. I could go all day.
Intergenerational kind of patterns and we're looking at what's gone on in mental health. Really interesting, actually, and because when we actually started working and thinking about the mind and thinking about people's experiences,
Purple. It's very common.
Individual. And there's a guy called Dan Siegel who's done some incredible things in understanding the mind, and he's kind of brought in the definition of how the mind works is it's processing information, but it's doing it both in an individual and in a relational way. And a lot about what's going on in mental health at the moment is actually moving to include relational aspects into healing.
Jason, can you tap the live 1,000 times so we get 1,000 likes, and then share to 20 of your friends, please? Thanks, that'd be great.
Any areas that people aren't using the healthiest ways of relating will get concentrated in families. And we're now seeing if a parent hasn't learnt the skills themselves from their parent, they can't teach their child. And so then we're seeing skills, like emotional awareness has we can actually watch where it's dropped out.
If you have a parent that doesn't believe in neurodiversity or being neurodivergent, I am sorry. It's very, very common, so you're not alone in this. Yeah, Jason, you're not doing enough. Like the live. If you like the live 5,000 times, I'll say your name. Okay, I'll say your full name. Like it 5,000 times, share it like a good boy, and then I'll say your name. Now, if you have a parent that doesn't believe in it, it can be incredibly difficult, but you don't walk alone, and there is room for growth here.
Yes.
There is room for growth. I've had experiences with family members who didn't believe necessarily that my child was autistic or that I am, but they have grown and learned a lot, and I think we can give them a lot of grace.
Yes,
because they're struggling too.
That's one of the things we're really facing at the moment. We've got a big proportion of people stepping up. They want to change the patterns. They want to stop the cycles. They want to make sure it doesn't spread down to the next generation. And hopefully the younger kids are really starting to see the effects of that in parenting, in the experiences they're having. But there's a lot of us who are doing that work to break those cycles. And then
talk about what that looks like, Dom.
Identify.
Yay,
yes.
purple.
And identify from non-judgmental as much as possible.
And it's hard not to judge when you're feeling invalidated. It's really hard.
Absolutely. Feel the feels about it. Have the emotional, and identify the emotions about how that feels. And then, looking at, one of the, we are in really interesting times at the moment from that shift in generations, because for people who are older and grew up with very different ideas and very different stereotypes, some of them are able to shift.
Yes.
One of the things about humans is there's actually a very clear kind of bell curve about how people can respond to change. Some are earlier adapters. They can take on this new ideas and this new information very quickly.
Purple, I'm so damn proud of you.
Some people really struggle with it. And so, I'm trying to be very generous and compassionate to
people who are struggling.
People are struggling with the change in these ideas. And then, huge support and to the people who are actually taking on that role of breaking those cycles, because, gosh, it's a huge job. It can just feel so much, but the difference for the kids is
it's going to require compassion.
Yes.
For yourself and for your family members that are not aligning with the reality of what's happening. It's going to require patience. It's going to require education. It's going to be exhausting. But if you are capable of doing that and investing, it's going to be world shifting.
Yes, that actually, literally world shifting. If we're bringing up kids who've got, who've got the emotional regulation capacity, who are coming up with the mindful approaches to their experience, who are able to kind of relate in kinder and healthier ways. Yeah. We all do that as individuals, and absolutely the world changes.
I just want to say I'm so proud of everyone who's shared everything in the comments and the questions you've made.
Thank you.
And all of your successes. You guys are just incredible. You're just, amazing. So Dr. Dom and I were both late diagnosed. We both now have neurodivergent children. We obviously both have sets of parents who are slightly older who have different views. But I would say that, overwhelmingly, there's been a really great reception from, my family to learn so much more, because I knew nothing about it till my son was diagnosed. So this is another one, because this happens a lot, Dom. I've got no contact with my family because it's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? Because sometimes that is really the right choice.
And look, it does come back to exactly where we are in time right now. If people become aware, and I'll just wear your battery.
That's fine. I'll fix my battery. You just keep going. But do you want to talk about when going no contact is appropriate, because sometimes it really is appropriate.
Where we're trying to change these intergenerational cycles at the moment, if you're one of the people who have taken that on, it is really challenging, staying connected to people who are not aware, or they just don't have that awareness, they don't have that understanding, and perhaps they're not capable of the same kind of growth. And there's a lot out there at the moment where a lot more people are choosing to go non-contact. It is one that you really want to sit and kind of check out for your own individual circumstances, because it does have a real emotional cost, cutting off from family. But if it's harmful for you to stay in contact, then it's also about self-care. This is not one that there is the right, and self-care and safety. There is no one-size-fits-all for people in this. It's very much looking at your own circumstances and then being very and one of the, because there are a lot of people who are in this boat where they've had to disconnect from family, is I think you mentioned about that people are now what is family?
Your chosen family.
We're starting to develop language and ways of thinking about this.
Oh, Purple, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But where, you've got your biological family, but you've also got your chosen family, and that's becoming a lot more available now.
And I hope that everybody who comes on here and who gets involved and joins the little NeuroKind family can feel that, we'll be part of that, because
that's a beautiful way of describing what we're trying to create here.
Guys, I'm so sorry. I always keep fiddling with the live because I'm silly. So now I'm going to have to go back. That's just going to be our background for now, Dom.
That's cool. Whatever works.
That's fine.
And look, that, if we're talking about family and family cycles, oh my goodness, it's December. We've got Christmas just around the corner, and the pressure that it puts on people, it puts, this ideal that's out there of what the perfect family and the perfect Christmas looks like. And, does it actually exist? Where are these perfect families?
They're on Instagram.
Where is this?
They're on Instagram.
What is a perfect Christmas? And
Thank you, Amy.
Having a look at expectations from family as compared to what we're being told that we should be able to have from them. And yes, the great growth in I'm just where people who are out there who are really kind of going, look, I don't want people to be alone on Christmas. Let's invite them into our family. And that's been something we've always done in our family in the past. And
the more the merrier.
It enhances Christmas in so many ways.
Absolutely.
And yes.
I'm the more the merrier. And what we want to create here with NeuroKind is a group of people who can talk about these things, who can feel safe, who can share resources, who can support one another. So I want everyone in the comments who is following, who is engaged, to have that kind of camaraderie with each other. Friendsmas, absolutely. Love Friendsmas. Ty, thank you so much for following us. I hope that you enjoy everything that we're putting out at NeuroKind. We have been filming some longer form videos so we can get deeper into issues. Today we did anxiety and camouflaging, so hopefully they'll be helpful. But I know that family at Christmas time, it's rough. I feel like I was thinking this morning, like Christmas, it's the most wonderful time of the year for neurotypicals.
And for children.
It is. I'm doing everything to make it wonderful for my son.
And see, it's bringing it back to, again, what are your expectations?
You're so welcome,
small
Cal.
things, being as mindful as possible.
And guys, this still is Ask a Psychiatrist Anything. I am just incompetent and I changed our backdrop, but it's still Ask a Psychiatrist Anything. So if you do have any specific questions, always drop them. We've
made a couple of videos this morning because we're aware that in the live often I can touch briefly on something but not go into as much depth, and we're going to be doing some videos to be able to do that and really working to help people understand what they're experiencing, where I can bring in that information that helps make sense of things for people. And then very practical, there's a lot of different strategies and skills that are very general and available.
Can I tell you one of my favorite things to do as an autistic woman? If you are autistic and you camouflage by not going out and yapping about your special interest, I need you to gather with your autistic friends, because you have them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're friends with someone and you're autistic, likely they probably are too. Gather, share your autistic special interest and let them purge and then you purge. It is the best time. It's the absolute best.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Purple. You have just been...
special interests. Gosh, let's do some time talking about special interests.
Yes. Do we have any autistics in the comments who have a special interest you want to share? Mine is parrots. One of them is parrots.
Yeah, yes, and sometimes my special interest was always the mind. Right back, I was a 10-year-old talking to people about the mind. And
how did I not know this about you? Clouds.
Sorry, the mind. Who's clouds?
Yours was. You had a very big special interest in clouds and cloud formations.
The other weather
specifically.
In general.
Weather
Absolutely,
specifically.
I love my weather.
Well, snails are fascinating.
Yes,
I get the snails are fascinating.
And, you can hear as we're starting to talk about it, one of the great things when somebody's, talking about their special interest is the enthusiasm and the intensity in a good way that we can bring to these areas.
And it's such a good way to bond with other neurodiverse people. Purple, I own everything purple.
Beautiful.
Embrace that special interest, baby.
Yes. And that's the thing, they bring us energy, they bring us joy. And it's been something that's been kind of, that's a bit weird.
No, it's so joyful.
Yes.
It's so joyful. Can I tell my parrot story?
Absolutely.
Okay, so my friend was over the other day babysitting my son. She's actually friend family. And she was babysitting my son. She's autistic too. And I'm obsessed with parrots. I feed the parrots in my yard. Ethically, I will add, I ethically feed them, and it's minerally enriched parrot food, sourced specifically. I'm very careful with it, but I feed them in the afternoons. And I had about 50 parrots in my yard, and I said, would you mind if I just went and sat outside with my parrots for a while? And she was like, could I come? And I was like, absolutely, you can come. You want to come? She's like, yes, please. And then we sat on the ground surrounded by the parrots, and yes, we hand feed them. That's how close I am with them now. My sulfur-crested cockatoos, boom, boom, we're besties. But so her special interest, also parrots.
Yes.
It was like, this is the best. We sat outside for about 45 minutes just with our birds, enjoying our birds.
Sharing that special interest without that stigma and everything. Yes, you're going to find you guys actually were able to kind of share that together.
But what I have learned is that other people think it's weird. I learned in school, if I kept talking about parrots and how they have unique feet because 2 claws front, 2 claws back, exclusively for parrots. In fact, it's a distinguishing feature. If they have that, they are classified as a parrot. I've learned not many people care. You probably shouldn't keep going on about it. When I discovered that the kakapo was the world's largest flightless parrot, wow.
So you've always been into parrots?
Always.
Oh, wow.
Since the day my eyes opened, I was like, I got to learn about these creatures. So, when I was in New Zealand, I went on a kakapo hunt that mind-blowing creatures.
Yes.
But I have learned that I need to dial it back with other people who aren't obsessed.
And so talking about special interests, some people it will be one special interest for their whole lives. Others,
Parrots.
they
brain.
and different numbers are, you're going to have a variety of different
weird is so
interests.
good. I use weird as a compliment.
It's becoming more and more so, thank
If
goodness.
I call you weird, it means I think you're cool as
but it's also kind of like, for some people, the special interest will take a certain amount of time and then it will pass out of your life, which can be, a huge event, but then will another one come in? It's one of the things you can be looking at if you're trying to check out whether you're verging into burnout if you are neurodivergent, is if you're not as interested in your special interests.
That's
a really
interesting.
Good red flag.
So if it's starting to lose a bit of the shine, you might be heading into burnout
or
interesting.
depression. And yes.
Okay, well then I'm fine.
Absolutely at the moment.
Because I'm still parrot daily.
Yes, and by knowing that you're neurodivergent, by thinking, this is one of the things, the language that's emerging around all the neurodivergent traits and experiences at the moment. Once we can put a word on it and give it, a label, then we can interact with it differently. And I know that, I've always known, how intensely I've been interested in these areas. But
the weather?
The weather, yes.
How often were you interested in the weather?
In the past? Well,
From when?
I'd always been a bit interested, but it was once, the internet came along and you can start.
Do you check the bomb every day?
Absolutely.
I also check the bomb every day.
Yes.
But who doesn't love the bomb?
Yeah. But now I can actually work with my special interests even more. I can not use them, but utilise them, I guess, to help bring in that energy, balance out the stresses of life, balance out the harder aspects of being neurodivergent.
Purple said, I pen pal to others in other countries. It's best of both worlds in Neurospicy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And let's just maybe talk a bit more about, what's going on with language and how it does change things. I was thinking this morning
because labels
about
matters. Hi, Ben.
Stimming and I've got photos. There's photos in my, primary school, preschool yearbook of me stimming, and I'd had to. I then was in a lot of trouble. The number of times stop fidgeting, and the idea that fidgeting was somehow a flaw or something, a wrong behaviour.
When it's a very normal thing, let a kid fidget.
Well, I'm shifting across now because once I start using the language stimming, I kind of go, okay, I'm not just fidgeting with my pen, which is some kind of waste of time. I'm stimming when I'm playing with the pen and clicking it on and off. And that's actually a really helpful way for me to I think much better when I'm stimming.
I'm stimming right now.
We both stim when we're doing these talks.
I'm stimming pretty much 24/7. I cricket in bed, just rubbing my feet together in bed.
And now it's become something that you can actually work with and engage with. And
it's like a release valve.
It is actually it's a very healthy release valve for the tension that's building up in your mind.
The nails, they're so good to tap things like.
And somehow I find different.
Does this annoy you? Because
no,
this is like serenity. Just tapping my nails on the table.
That's just reminded me, actually.
I was going to say, do we want to talk about sensory things we hate?
Well, it's just reminded me of one of those really helpful little tricks. One of the things that, people, but particularly neurodivergent people, can struggle with is things like skin picking and nail biting. Yeah,
trichotillomania. Remember how we discussed that?
Fake nails are brilliant for skin picking and because you actually can't do it with them. They're too thick.
One of my parrots just landed outside, guys. I was like,
And sometimes it's just looking at simple things like that rather than, really major battles with a coping mechanism that your mind's developed. If you use fake nails and you just can't do it anymore, your system will actually then develop a different kind of stimming or coping mechanism.
An appropriate stimming that isn't harming you.
Like Hannah's doing exactly there.
I tap.
Playing with the fake nails.
It's so satisfying. I can't even explain. It's so satisfying. It scratches my brain in just the right way. But can we do sensory things that we hate? Because you have one. that has been really problematic.
Yeah. And
I'm
again,
the blackboard.
yes,
Yeah.
I know. I immediately come out. Do I even say it out loud? And you know, this was another one where understanding.
Oh, purple. Yeah, I need to have.
Yes.
Like something going all the time.
We're understanding that I'm neurodivergent, how much difference it's made with this one. So I had, I cannot be in the same room as a blackboard. I know that is a sound that, things scraping on blackboards. I can hardly say it
even
out loud.
Saying it, does it make you uncomfortable? Yeah.
It's a pretty noxious experience for.
It is gross,
everybody.
but I can tolerate it.
But it for me, it was just another level of visceral discomfort. And, I was sitting there going, is it, have I become phobic to it? What's going on with this? And once I actually understood the sensory differences, it's just become so clear that for me, that is one that my brain responds to in a level that is very different. It's not phobic in that I'm, having anxiety about it. It's
your brain can't.
My brain and that sound.
We turned up for our first NeuroKind seminar because we host seminars, and we turned up for one that was for young girls from age 14 to 18, and they had a blackboard, and we were immediately like, gonna have to pivot.
Yep.
We can't do a blackboard,
yeah.
So we're just gonna have to put up big pieces of paper and write on them.
It worked as a great way to introduce neurodivergence and sensory sensitivities.
To be like, we can't.
Hey, okay, I've got one here that I'm going to have to look at accommodations.
Well, we have to have an accommodation because we can't work with a blackboard. It ain't gonna fly.
And just we brought up the accommodation.
This one's dry bread. So sensory feelings. Sounds for me are a big one, but sensory feelings.
Yeah, and they're so individual.
They're so individual. They're so interesting.
But one of the things I really love on social media where there's people sharing their experiences in this area.
Purple, absolutely, you can
just
DM me.
All the different variety of different, but how often certain ones, other people will be sharing that experience. How good it feels to think I'm not the only person who struggles with this.
The biggest one that I find is labels on clothes.
Well, that's one that I think there are areas in which the neurodivergent experience, I'm really hopeful that we've got 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, they're just letting me check. They're just checking that we're still on.
Yeah.
We've got 5 minutes to go. So if you do have any more Ask a Psychiatrist Anything questions, you've got 5 minutes to ask them. Purple, my DM is always open to you. So 5 minutes left for Ask a Psychiatrist Anything. Yeah. Labels on clothes.
Labels on clothes. This is one that I know personally I'm really hopeful that the neurodivergent experience is actually going to change things for everyone.
Same,
because
Purple.
We've got, the experience and particularly with kids where they act, you're having, you just routinely now just cut them all off. But it's not like they're comfortable for neurotypical people either. They mightn't be quite as distressing, and they mightn't be something
like they might stop they won't stop your ability to sit still.
But they're still not comfortable, and hopefully that one's going to be one that what are the labels trying to do, and are there alternatives that would work for everyone?
We don't need them. Get rid of it. I have a clothing brand. It has very minimal labels.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Dawn, did you cut the label off your dress that I gave you, do you think? Or do you think you kept it on?
No, I did. I hadn't noticed it. There you go.
That's how much I made the labels not noticeable that she didn't have to cut them off.
Okay, so...
all labels must go, yeah. OCD, we're going to do a longer video on OCD, but since we've got 5 minutes left, I think let's give 5 minutes to OCD.
Yes, and we're talking about ACT,
and because Drew's a mutual, and I love Drew so much, so Dom,
yes, acceptance and commitment therapy, and yes, OCD is. So
let's do it. What is OCD? What are the how does it manifest?
OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder, where the obsessions are the thoughts that come up, and then the compulsions are the behaviours that people develop to try and decrease the distress and tension associated with the particular thought. The thing that's core to OCD is that a checking behaviour doesn't actually, or knowing that having a picture in your head that something is okay doesn't
Purple,
actually give you
love
that
Drew.
internal sense of I'm fine. So like if I've turned off the stove and I look and I kind of go, oh yeah, that's fine, it's turned off. In OCD, it's still that, I'm not quite sure, I don't think it is turned off. I haven't got that sense of certainty about it. And it's a condition that we've got a number of different approaches from that psychological perspective with CBT or ACT. And yes, I'm just starting to...
Are you losing words?
I've just kind of gone up. Okay, brain's starting to fade a little bit.
So this is another thing with being autistic. Eventually, some of your skills will just go.
Yeah.
Dom loses words, so she loses language first. I don't lose my words. I'll keep talking, but I'll be completely disassociated. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know where I am. My brain, blank, gone. But OCD, so you've got like the stereotypical things like the light flicking, checking that things are on or off. It can be really, really distressing for people who have OCD. It can be really, really hard. Therapies, Dom, that you recommend to people with OCD?
So if we're looking generally with OCD treatment, it is one of the ones we will be
he's saying
looking...
mine's mostly harm-based OCD. Again, very common. Things like trichotillomania, or we've got hair pulling. We've got
yes, okay.
We've got nail bed pulling. It's really hard.
It's an area where there's a broad spectrum of. There's the very classical kind of things where the germ-related ones where people will have the thought that they're contaminated and then having to do hand washing, and then there's a lot where it's the obsession and the compulsion are both mental. So there's this is where look, if I count a certain number, then the fear will go away. And then there's definitely the conditions like the trichotillomania.
Could you link to the harm minimization tools? Just because I know we're going to get kicked off in a second.
Yep.
So can you link to the harm minimization tools that we discussed in that seminar? Link? Just say who they are, the brand.
Keiko.
Keiko.
K-A-I-K-O, I think it is. This is, and like I said, I don't have any commercial interest. I just recommend these.
Yeah, we don't make any money off this.
When I know that they've actually got really effective tools. This is a family-based business here in Australia where their child who is neurodivergent found that the fidget toys and that out there just weren't suitable for teenagers and adults, and got in and started making his own really awesome fidgets. And they've then extended out to really look at all of the tools that can be effective in helping people with mental health conditions, including quite a few tools working on
harm minimization.
And I just love it. I love the concept
so they can cause like a little bit of pain, but they're not going to hurt you.
And they've actually got silicon-based things where you can do the picking or pulling hair on these particular tools. And I love the thinking because it's just so kind and compassionate. Yeah. And rather than
K-A-I-K-O.
Yeah, it's about kind of acceptance. But these could be such a big problem. Trying to manage them constantly is exhausting. And yes, there are really good therapies, but particularly for things like trichotillomania, it's pretty hard to fully change those things. And these tools just make life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're going to have to finish on that, but we're so grateful for all of you tuning in. I hope that you're all part of the NeuroKind family. I hope that everybody has shared the live and liked the live and hit follow. We will be doing these lives every single Thursday from NeuroKind at 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please DM us. We're always checking, we're always looking, and we'll always be bringing it to you the next time. And we'll always be adding more video content in the meantime with deeper dives into comments that are coming up all the time.
And particularly if you're adding comments to, we're reading them, we're taking them, and we're trying to then incorporate in the information.
Yeah, every comment that gets left, we read them all, we talk about them all, and we consider them all. So, yeah, we are...
And we're really grateful.
We're really so grateful for you. So we'll sign off.
Okay.
I love you all, NeuroKind fam. You have been amazing, especially Purple One, and especially for everyone who's been willing to share things
Thank
that
you.
are so personal, and we're so grateful.
Okay,
Bye, guys.
Bye.